When people meet me in person, they're like, oh my God, you're just the biggest nerd. So I just did what I wanted to do the whole, this is me, a little 15-year-old girl walking around the mall. And I've noticed something. Every single person that we came like cross path, basically, we're staring. Mom, like people are staring at me. So for me, I was just really excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a model. This is working. Just be nice to people. I don't know why it's so hard for others to do that.
All right, welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what the show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my beautiful wife, Ivy.
Hello, good morning, afternoon, evening.
Yeah, I've had Ivy on the show multiple times, and we never dove into her story. And so now this is a podcast dedicated to her incredible journey and kind of how she went to the place of becoming vegan. Not saying that it's the full achievement of your life for you to go vegan, but I'm sure people want to know more about you. So welcome to the show, my love.
Thank you, my love. And I'm very scared because you didn't prep me for this.
Well, we've known each other for almost 3 years now, so that's all the prep we need.
All right, cool.
Life prepared us for this episode.
It sounds fair.
Yeah. So let's just get started from the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in the Philippines, in Manila, which is a huge city, capital of the Philippines, right? Yeah, I grew up there. Moved here when I was just turned 15. And went straight to a small town called Simi Valley. So went to school
it's like 20 minutes from here.
Yeah. Oh, very quiet little town. Quite a culture shock, as you can imagine, moving from a big, super populated city to barely anybody. I felt like it was a zombie apocalypse at one point. Very empty, but quiet, safe neighborhood, which I love.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in the Philippines? Because it was pretty much your formative years, right? Until you were 15.
Yeah, I feel like, I feel blessed and grateful that I grew up in the Philippines because of just the culture itself. It's very family oriented and, like socializing is a big thing for Filipinos. It's very much celebrated, whatever wins you have. Just they find reasons to just party pretty much. So I love that part of the culture. Karaoke and dancing were pretty much like very entertainment type I think culture. Like singing and dancing is huge. You have family gatherings, everybody just performs however they can, and it's fun. I miss that part of the culture.
Yeah. If you're comfortable, do you mind kind of sharing how you grew up?
How I grew up?
Yeah, like how you were living with your grandma and kind of all of that and kind of coming to the States. And I'll preface this for the people listening because when I first moved to LA and I met you, I was like, man, a beautiful girl from LA, her brain's going to be empty, is going to be very superficial, and I'm not going to be able to have meaningful conversation. And you were very down to earth. And I learned that you grew up in the Philippines and kind of how you grew up. And I was like, oh, that makes sense that you would be so down to earth. And that obviously you look beautiful. So I just want people to understand like why you're so special to me.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, I guess you're trying to say growing up in the Philippines, especially back in the day, there was a standard, I think it still is, of beauty, right? And growing up in a third world country, it's either you're rich or you're poor or you're beautiful and you're not. And it's usually associated with a lot of like these Asian countries. If you're darker, you're poor and you're ugly. And that was the harsh reality back then, right?
Yeah, because it represented you like worked in the field,
farm,
basically.
right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
A manual labor, basically. And if you're light skin and more of the Western look or the Spanish look, then that means that you're like wealthy and doing well because you get to work in an air conditioned place, right? So it was pretty much a stereotypical type place when I was growing up. And I was labeled as exotic. Let's just put it that way.
In the Philippines or here?
Here,
Yeah.
I mean, in the Philippines, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
because they didn't know if I was pretty or I wasn't. I wasn't your typical Filipino, look or rounder eyes and just like the features, as you can tell, a lot of Filipinos are. And I was also taller than most. Um, I am more of the Chinese side, right? But also, that's not a good thing when I was growing up, having like slanted eyes and bigger lips. That was like not a thing. So people were so confused what I was, and I was getting teased, as a kid, and not growing up with a father, which is my biological father actually left when I was a baby, right? So that's also a big thing because it's a Catholic based, huge
Yeah.
Catholic like population, and it's a sin, growing up without a father and basically like a bastard. And I was made fun of a lot of times, but I had such a great support of family that I didn't really notice all that. It was more like I was just filled with love from family, my cousins, who was like my sisters, and my grandma who raised me. And my mom was working the whole time. I mean, she was a rock star. She had to work to raise me.
Yeah.
So to get back to the whole thing, since I'm telling so much now, um, yeah, like I grew up very down to earth because we didn't really have a lot when I grew up too. We were considered poor. And then that's why my mom had to work and had to come to the States and then, petition me to come. So that's the whole story back there. But knowing that I wasn't the prettiest girl and I was getting teased on top of that, I made it a point to actually study harder. So, like how people are like, if you're not pretty, you better be smart. So I worked so hard to be like on top of my class, like being in like the whole student council and just prove to people that, I am somebody and I could be this person regardless of how I look or where I came from or who I am, right? And I was very much liked by my peers, which was my strength. So it didn't matter if it was like first grader or sixth grader, people loved me and liked me. And I quickly realized that, man, I like have this skill that people just automatically like me. I was likable. So I harnessed that and I was like, this is my strength. And it came to like, yeah, it served me because at the end of the day, I had so many friends and I get so many love from people. All the insecurities went away because I kind of found my strength at a very early age. And
Yeah.
that was pretty much like when I came to the States, it's the same thing. I never looked at people like they're below me or anything like that because I knew where I came from. And it sucks to be poor and it sucks to be labeled, right? So, yeah, when you met me, like people just look at my Instagram or social media and go, oh, she must be a bitch. Or like, she's modeling, so she must be this or
Just
dumb.
half naked on Instagram.
And yeah, you got to do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, when people meet me in person, they're like, oh my God, you're just the biggest nerd. Or like, you're just so normal and like, just like this really relatable person, which I like. It's a persona that I probably like showing on social media, and it's just work, it's business. But when it comes to real life, like I'm real, I'm genuine, and I tell people how it is for the most part. So
Yeah. That's one thing I admire about you because when we first met, had a lot of it. I had a lot of insecurities, and I was talking to you, and you're like, I'm good. I don't have any. I was like, when people say something or whatever, and I didn't really know where that came from until you kind of shared your story of like how you grew up.
yeah, I've always been independent in that way. I never got pursued by others or peer pressure for like, and I didn't even know what that was because I just did what I wanted to do the whole time, right? And people come to you when you're so sure and confident of yourself. They just like, when they say build and they will come. So I
Yeah.
build that self up, right? But it was genuine. It was who I was. Like I didn't pretend. This is who I am. I feel like creating a persona and pretending to be somebody is so much effort. So I just realized if you're you and you're genuine and you're nice to people, then you attract the same energy. And I did. So yeah, like I never understood how people actually like get so sucked into this, like, hey, I need to be cool. So I need to be hanging out, and this is the coolest thing that people are doing. I was never like that. So I thought I was actually not normal because I was like, oh, well, I'll do what I want to do. And if that's not cool, well, so be it.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of your strengths now too. So I love to talk about the transition of you going from the Philippines to kind of moving here because there's a few things you left out in the story. So I'll just mention them. One is like you mentioned, you did get made fun of, but because you were skinny, because you were really skinny growing up.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was called there was this cartoon called Popeye and Olive
Hmm.
Oil, which is Popeye's husband.
Yeah,
I mean wife. Sorry. So Olive Oil is just super skinny with big shoes and like, I guess just big, basically you can see like little stringy legs and feet. And yeah, kids called me Olive Oil because I was so skinny, and that's not also a status of wealth because that means you're starving to death or something. But people didn't know that I was just naturally skinny. My grandma and my mom were trying to feed me as much food as possible. Like if we hear there's vitamins that can make you fat, like they were giving me those. I was like just trying everything to like fill me up basically. But I was very, very skinny and like my whole life pretty much, right? And it was funny, like I could eat anything and everything and just like not gain any weight. Also, I was a picky eater, so that
yeah,
didn't
you're
help.
just eating vegetables.
I Yeah,
Give me one side. So you mentioned that your parents would give you some vitamins and supplements to make you put on a bunch of fat.
yeah.
Do you remember some of the crazy stuff you guys tried?
I don't know. I remember like there's Chinese like, oh, it's called growth balls.
Growth walls,
Balls.
growth balls. Okay,
Oh, that's also to make you taller. So
okay,
basically, anything that my grandma and my mom heard that could help you get taller and bigger, they're making me take. A lot of food. There's all just like a lot. Like, pork is
yeah,
one thing, like, because it's just everybody
it's part
consume.
of the culture.
Yeah, like, roasted pig, unfortunately. That's what I grew up on. And having that kind of culture and not having any awareness, right? Like it is what it is. So I ate all that, when I was young, but I wasn't really into it because it gave me stomach ache for some reason. I love vegetables, right? So you can ask any of my family members, like I would rather eat vegetables. So, but the times that I was eating pork and meat, it was giving me stomach ache. So I kind of, regulated that to like minimum.
Yeah, it's so funny growing up, like hearing you talk about these things. Here, it's the opposite, right? Like you want to be skinny, you want to have, you know, bigger lips, you want to like all the things that were the opposite. Like what you had in the Philippines was popular here, and then what you guys wanted in the Philippines was the opposite of what people wanted here.
Right. So, like being light skinned. So, I'm not considered dark in the Philippines. When I was growing up, I was actually kind of light skinned. So, I had that going for me. But other than that, it's like I'm skinny, I had like bigger lips. It's like I didn't fit the mold of beauty. I remember one time I was in class, and usually you have a muse, we call in each class. I don't know if you guys have it in
No,
here in
what
your
is it?
Canada.
What did I do?
So it's basically the prettiest girl in the classroom. You'll vote a muse. So in every class, there'll be like a president, right? Your student council, and then you'll have a muse, which is like the prettiest girl. I was
What did they do? They're just pretty. They're just standing there.
there's like a pageant,
Oh,
a
okay.
school pageant. So each section that we call, right? So if you're like in first grade, you have like 12 sections, and each sections would represent a muse, and then within your grade, you'll have like the muse of all the muses of first grader.
Yeah.
So like that's crazy, right? So we were getting judged early on what standard of beauty is. And I came so close, but I would always be second because I was likable. So people always voted like, to get me into the muse part. But they're just like I remember one time one of the teachers were just like, yeah, no, we're not gonna go for you. And I was like very blunt. Filipinos are very blunt. They tell you
Yeah.
like if you're fat or skinny, like in your face.
Yeah.
And they don't think that's actually bad. It's just a culture.
I've seen your mom and your aunt talk, and
Yeah, it
yeah, how
was
you guys talk to
very
each other.
discouraging.
Yeah, I feel like that would be like so canceled if it was to be brought to the United States.
Yeah, like they'll be like, "Why are you so fat?" Did he see like you for the first time? You know, that's a question that they ask, and you're just like taken back and like, "Whoa, okay, calm down."
Yeah. But one thing I've noticed through kind of like you and your mom, also I've never been in the Philippines, but it's very, we'll put it aesthetically driven in the Philippines. So like wearing brand name like purses and clothing and looking a certain way. Yeah, why do you think that is? Why do you think that it's
Well,
so?
the culture itself looks down on poor people, right? I don't know now. I mean, I'm sure a lot of Filipinos would either agree or disagree with me, but when I was growing up, speaking from experience, right? It's very designer brand name type of culture. It's what you wear, who you are, who your network are. That's how you're judged for the most part, right? Like I said, there's no really middle. It's either you're rich or you're poor. And, you know, there's some in the middle that's trying to be either. They're very social climber too. So it's like, because that's what the culture is. It's who you know. So I don't blame people thinking the way they do. It's because they were brought up that way.
Yeah,
So
that's all you know.
yeah, if you're wearing expensive clothes and shoes and, you know, bags and things like that, and you're hanging out with rich people, you just get so much more respect for some reason. I remember like you can't even get into a really nice restaurant if you look poor because you just ruin the whole aesthetic of the place and they
Yeah,
can deny service. So that's another thing.
that's crazy. So you don't
Right.
look nice enough. You can't eat here today.
Right? It's quite the opposite here because I quickly realized that rich people, like really rich people, like the fuck you money people, don't care. Like they can wear
Yeah.
whatever they want.
When we went to that jewelry store for your friends, where about my watch,
Oh
Peter.
yeah.
Yeah,
So Peter Marco is a good friend and he's on Beverly Hills, you know, Rodeo Drive.
yeah.
One
That's
of
why that's my
your
first
Rolex.
my Rolex, and that's kind of where we bought your purse around there. And Ivy and I walked in there one day, and there was a guy like long basketball shorts. I'd say like H&M t-shirt. Had a very basic watch. The watch looked like a Walmart watch, but I
Right.
caught a glimpse of it, and it was a Patek Philippe. And I googled it after, and it was worth like 400 grand. And they were
Right.
looking at $1 million rings. And yeah, the people that have money don't dress like they do, but they have subtle things. Like that watch fully looks like a
Yeah,
Walmart watch, but it's
exactly.
not.
Yeah, it's not like blinged out or anything. It's just simple.
Yeah,
But yeah, so you can't judge people here because they're just different, right? Like
yeah,
there's more freedom in terms of like the way you look and the way you want to represent yourself. It's really not as judgmental because people are aware now that most rich people actually wouldn't dress
yeah.
like
People dress down now. If you're doing well, you dress down.
right.
Yeah,
But in the Philippines, they want it to be known that, you know, you have what you have
yeah.
because it commands respect. So
So let's talk about the transition from that culture to coming here at 15. So you go from being, teased for being skinny, being really good in school, and not looking the part, if you want, for
right.
Filipino culture, to now coming here and having a completely different reaction from society and from people.
Yeah, I think we spoke about this before. So
Not on the podcast.
so my mom and I went to the mall in Thousand Oaks because that's like my stomping ground.
Go to Oaks.
The Oaks Mall.
Yeah.
Yes. So we love shopping. That's one thing, right?
Oh, yes. Ivy could open a store of clothing. There's so much clothes in
Yeah.
this house.
On sale soon. So, but yeah, so my mom and I went, and you know, this is me, a little 15-year-old girl walking around the mall, and I've noticed something. Every single person that we came like cross path, basically, we're staring, and I was like, "Mom, like people are staring at me." It's like, is there something wrong? And my mom's like, I don't know either. Like, I don't know why they're staring at you. And then all of a sudden compliments started coming in. It's like I have super long dark hair. It's like super thick back then. And everyone's like, you have like the best hair. And then they would like, you have the best smile, you have the best teeth, you have like, you're just so pretty. And I'm not used to that. That's like not something I used to get in the Philippines, right? So I was like, oh my God, they think I'm pretty here. That was like a culture shock because all of a sudden everything that I was not in the Philippines is I am now.
Yeah, it became the extreme opposite, basically.
Right, like the bigger lips, naturally. People used to ask me if I got in fillers. Um, just like being so skinny, right? Like being able to eat everything I wanted and still stay skinny. So we had a talent scout actually approach me at the mall, another mall, and asked if I would come in for an interview with their modeling agency. And actually, this is in Brentwood area, and that's quite far. And being 15, I couldn't drive, right? So I told my dad, and I was like, and I begged my dad and my mom to take me to the interview because I was so excited. I was like, modeling. I was like, I've never even like considered myself being a model, not even in my wildest dreams, because growing up in the Philippines and being told that you're not pretty, it's just not a thing that you even like conceptualize, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I was just really excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a model. And my mom's like, yeah, I don't understand why they think
Why they find you pretty.
yeah. And she was so confused too, right? I mean, she's not being mean. She was being honest.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, we'll take you this one time. If we think it's a scam, like, we're not going back. I was like, yeah, sure. And I even thought it was a scam because there's no way people would take me seriously as a model. So we went and they pitched a junior like modeling, and they actually said that we would pay for everything, your photos, like to start like pitching you basically to brands. And I was like, what? You're not asking money from us? Because I've heard about this modeling like scams, right?
Yeah. That's what it for me. It's like, hey, we'll front you the money. We'll pay for it, but we're fronting you. And then when you get your first gig, you have to pay it back.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what they did.
I wasn't pretty enough.
They said once you start getting gigs, and we'll take, some money from what we fronted. And I was like, cool deal, right? I did my first photo shoot. I was very impressed because I've never really seen myself in like a professional photo type thing.
It's different.
Right? And I was like, oh my God, that's like so much better than I thought I was. I started as a junior model and I started booking gigs, right? So back then, modeling was not Instagram modeling. It was actually
real
represented by agencies.
My agency is Instagram.
Right. It's either you go to an audition that's already pre-booked, right?
Yeah.
For you to come from your agent, or it's a direct booking.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of direct booking for print work. I did a lot of big brands like Skechers and things like that.
Yeah. And Coca-Cola too.
So my first big one was Coca-Cola.
And where was it?
It was in Times Square.
Yeah.
So like Ivy's the Coke
billboard was all over Times Square.
And that was my first ever main brand billboard. I think I was really young, like 17 or 18. So at that time, I was like, I didn't realize how serious that was, because they just said, you'll be on a billboard for this commercial. And all I had to do is like laugh and drink Coke, which I actually didn't drink soda, by the way, back then. So
You don't like fizzy drinks?
Well, I just didn't. Oh, you're right. Yeah. It's fizzy drink. I got traumatized one time, and that came about. I was working for Panda Express when I was younger, and I accidentally pressed the syrup and the water fountain.
Yeah.
And it was
carbonated water.
Yeah, the carbonated water. I wanted 7-Up or something, so I just started doing the carbonated water, which I didn't know, and then I just drank that straight. And since then, I didn't tell you this. That's when it started. I didn't want any fizzy water. I didn't want carbonated.
PTSD from carbonated water.
That traumatized me. So so I didn't drink soda, and I was in my healthy kick already because my stepfather actually did allow sodas in the house. So I had a stomach ache after drinking all that Coke. But the commercial came out really great, and it was in the billboard of Times Square. It was interactive, and it was great. And I felt like, hey, this is real. I'm a real model. Like I didn't really have to prove
Yeah.
myself anymore. Like a lot of people are still trying. I mean, trying and like trying to thrive into that industry, and I just lucked out and booked the biggest thing ever. Also, Monster Energy that was released in Japan, and making money like so quick. It's like I got paid 20 grand for like a quick shoot for like 6 hours maybe,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is great.
This is fun. I don't have to work at Panda Express anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the fun part of and that was the beginning of modeling for me, which I also didn't expect to have as a career.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because you're very academically driven
right,
when you were in the Philippines.
well, in the Philippines, it's a big competition in terms of jobs, right? Because you have so many people and so little jobs available. So for you to be able to even get a decent job, you need to have a college degree. So that's embedded in our brains from early beginnings. And when you're young, like you have to finish college and you have to get a good job. And if you don't even finish high school, there's like no chance that you can even get a decent job. And we're talking about call centers, for
Yeah.
example. You need to have a
Some of those
degree.
people have like masters,
Right.
bachelor's degrees, and they're working at call centers. We had an employee way before we met in the Philippines,
Right.
and yeah, for her I think I paid her like $4 an hour, and that was like double what she was making as a history teacher in
Right.
university. Like it
Crazy,
was,
right?
I was like, that's how much you get paid as a history teacher. I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, shit, that's double the amount of money you make. Or it's great for me, it's great for you, but yeah, it's very competitive.
It's very competitive, and if you don't have a college degree, it's basically you're not going nowhere. So
Yeah,
that was, that's one good thing that came out of me growing up in the Philippines and having that mindset, right? That you need to succeed in life and you need to work hard and you need to go to school.
yeah.
So which I did. I did my college in nursing and then did like
Fulfilling the stereotype.
and it's not even my mom. It's my stepfather who's white.
Yeah.
It's like, like just go to nursing because you don't know what the hell you want to do with your life. And I was like, sure. And I
Yeah.
hated, I mean, no disrespect to the nurses out there. It's a hard job.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's emotionally draining, which I was not prepared for. I love happy people, and it's just not what you get from
It's
hospitals,
not a happy
right?
place.
Yeah, I love to help people, but also the part that I'm very emotionally attached to them did not help.
Yeah.
So when I graduated nursing, I didn't even bother to take my exam to be an actual full-on nurse because I just told my dad this is not something I can do.
Yeah.
So he said, okay, respectfully, like do whatever you want now. Like you finished and that's all I wanted you to do. So I got into fashion and corporate jobs and modeling still the whole time. And yeah, I felt like I've succeeded in life somehow.
Yeah. Well, you've
Traveled.
married me.
What a
I'm
jackpot.
just
All right, that's just the cherry on
I
top.
got the jackpot. There's so many paths I want to go down here.
I
So
know
yeah,
there's so much stories.
you studied you okay, let's go over this. You went to fashion school to be a stylist and you did that for a while.
I did got certified as a fashion stylist because I really wanted. I'm creative, as you know, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah. A million ideas left and right.
I love improving anything, like people. I want to like make them beautiful. Um, Surroundings. I have a vision. There's just so many things I tried doing because I'm trying to find my passion in life, right? So one of those is styling, and I was quite good at it. And I assisted a Victoria's Secret senior stylist in New York just to learn more about it. And I wasn't living in New York, I just flew there to help her, and she offered me a job to be her assistant right away because she's like, it's hard to find, people you can trust and, the vision. So I was very excited, but at the same time, I was like, do I really want to move my whole life to New York just to try this? So it wasn't, I guess, as big of a passion because I didn't move.
Yeah.
Um, I don't remember why I didn't move. There was something else. I think I was doing World Poker Tour already.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's because I know World Poker Tour is a big chapter of your life, but before we get into that, you talked about modeling. So I'm curious because obviously I did it too, and I kind of had my own experiences in that. Did it ever get to your head that people were saying that you were so pretty, that you were making this money with modeling because you came from not that, and then you come here and it's a complete 180, and you started booking all of these jobs? Did you
right.
ever have a phase where it got to your head, or you stayed cool the whole way through?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I didn't stay cool the whole way through for sure. It got to my head at one point, but I came back down.
No, because I think I was just in disbelief the whole time. So it didn't really register in my head that, hey, he did all those big things. Even now, like I look back and I was like, holy shit, I did like magazine covers and billboards and like
Music
commercials,
videos,
a lot of music videos, met, A-list stars along the way. And I'm like, still
Mariah
doesn't,
Carey, Snoop Dogg.
yeah, like Eminem, all those like all those really cool people that you just see in music videos, and you're like, oh shit, I'm in that music video,
There was well, I have a friend in Vancouver, JR.
right?
Might be listening to this, JR and Vivian. Hello. I
We
think
love
JR
them.
texted me at one point. He's like, "Hey, is it Ivy in this music video?" I was like, "Yeah, it is."
Yeah,
Was it a Ty? Did you do one with Tyga?
no,
Like
it's Ink
with like the car with like the Audi
Kid Ink,
i8? Oh yeah. I
and
think it was the one he was watching. He was like, "That looks like Ivy." I'm like, "It is Ivy."
yeah, so random. Yeah, but you would think like, oh, music video is like the booty and like titty girls. I'm cursing a lot here, but
That's okay. Hey, I rate all the podcasts as explicit just in case
I'm
something comes
sorry,
out.
kids. Okay.
There's no kids listening to this. Sorry about it.
um. Yeah, no, I got casted for like the most wholesome parts.
Yeah.
It's either for Snoop and Mariah was like working for Louis Vuitton in Beverly Hills, selling them products or like jewelry and whatnot, and then for Kid Ink, I was like another girl selling jewelry to his like wife. So it's always that type of video, which is crazy, right? Like I was always that just wholesome. Like I never
That
really
says a lot about your energy.
right, like or like like love songs, and I'm like the girl with the boyfriend. So that's how it was. So going back to your question, did it get in my head as far as like being considered, right? Or like
Mhm.
thinking you're better and above everyone? No. Again, like I never thought of myself as that person. I just can never relate. I don't know about you, but if you look at your photos and what I did for like FHM magazine and like this super sexy like hot chick, I'm like, whoa, look at me, like in disbelief. And I'm not like looking at a mirror. It's looking at somebody else that was created just for that brand.
Yeah.
Right. And I fulfilled it. So that's one of the things that excite me the most being a model is you get to have this concept of a vision and make it come to life. And once that's successfully brought to life, you fulfilled what you're supposed to do, right? Like being a model is not just a pretty face. It actually, I mean, you've been a
Me, it
model,
was different because you did commercial work. I did high
right?
fashion. So all I was a tall, skinny hanger to put clothes on so I can walk up and down a runway.
Right,
So me, it was different. I didn't do commercial work 'cause I was too tall for it.
yeah. So going about that, when I was my first photo shoot, real photo shoot for a magazine that's New York magazine based, and it's like a photographer's magazine. The owner of the magazine actually shot me like for this and told me straight out, you will never be a supermodel, but you have a pretty face and you've got everything, but only if you were 3 inches taller, you might make it,
Yeah.
but you're not. So you're not going to be. And someone to tell you straight out at a very young age that you're not going to be anything more than a print model was really like it took me back like to where I was like, man, I'm being judged, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I'm going to be successful, whether it's modeling or whatnot. But also, that comment was embedded in my head forever,
Yeah.
which didn't really affect me, fortunately, because I knew I was shorter than like a supermodel. I was
Yeah.
5'7". You know, you have to be 5'10". But when he told me that, I took it as a compliment. I was like, oh man, if I was only 3 inches taller, I would have been a supermodel in my head, right? So I was good enough to be in that only if I was 3 inches taller. So he's saying everything else I was except the height.
Yeah.
So that actually gave me more confidence. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
this is
we took
great.
that the opposite because
Yeah.
I was gonna add that Mia got me pissed.
Yeah.
It was always like some fat dude telling me that I was fat, and
Right.
I weighed 160 pounds at 6'4". They come to me, it's like, nah, too fat, too big of a stomach. I'm like, I'm skin and bones, man. I'm like, what do you
Right.
want me to lose? So me, I didn't take it as a compliment. I took the opposite. I was like, you know what? Screw the whole fashion industry. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna build my own brand. I'm gonna be on the cover of a magazine because of what I built, not because of what I look. So
Right.
to me, I use it as like fuck you inspiration, and then I built all of this now.
That's crazy though, how our mindset's so opposite.
Yeah,
Like, to me, I think like being brought up in a certain way and having a different mindset, I was just happy basically to get what I could because I never had ever dreamt of being a model in my life, right? So everything I in my whole modeling journey, everything was just a plus.
yeah,
I was just grateful for everything that I've gotten. It didn't get in my head. I was always down to earth. And if anything, brands like love working with me because I don't complain, because I was just grateful to be there. I did what I had to do. I was never a diva. I show up when I have to, like on time, and just do the work and be nice and great to work with. That's important, right? Like
yeah,
people remember the experience of how you treat them versus like anything else. If you can go back in your life, it would be like, what's the fondest memory you have? It's the way you were treated, right? Like you told me that you have these memories of like how people like treated you at your lowest point, and that's like the most that you remember. So that's how I like to treat people. So maybe someday they'll remember me and be like, hey, you're the fondest memory I've had.
and I have another job for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually helped. I get rebooked over and
Yeah,
over. So I was like, man, this is working. Just be nice to people. I don't know why it's so hard for others to do that.
yeah. Um, let's talk about WPT because that was a big chapter of your life.
Oh, yeah. So,
Just
I,
explain what WPT is for people if they're not too familiar
well,
with it.
first I want to bring it back to Rock and Republic where I used to work. And it was like, I was the office manager for corporate, and that was fashion, right? Like, so I was so excited.
Yeah,
Um,
explain for the people listening what Rock Republic
Rock and
is.
Republic denim back in the day is a premium denim. It was $400 a pair of pants. You can get it for 200. That's the lowest price point, to like 400 to even 500. And it's like, that part of the culture of like super expensive denim jeans, and people were wearing and celebrities. It was like so fun for me, right? Because I was never that person, but now I'm like, I got hired to manage all these people in the headquarters of fashion. And the way I got that, I used to model for Rock Republic. So I was offered a job because they knew I'd like experience in corporate and stuff like that. But also, people were betting how long I was going to stay in the company because I guess the turnover was just so high. It was like every couple months.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So they're having like this betting going on behind my back. And 2.5 years later, I was still there when the company actually went down. And I was the last person to be let go to lock up the place. It was a great experience. It was like a lot of highs, and I was sad that, we lost money and it was bankrupt. But
From
another,
what I understood, the CEO was like spending a ton.
oh yeah, no, private jets. But, it's I can't blame him. I mean, I don't know if I had like he came from nothing, right? He was like an actor and got lucky and made millions and millions, and he thought it was never going to end.
And
So
spent millions and
right.
millions.
I mean, luckily for me, I got to see like all his cars and play with them while he's working. When I say play with the cars, I go outside to the parking lot and like literally like there's a security standing by his McLaren. And I was like, hey, can I just like sit inside? And I was cool with everyone. And they're like, okay. So they'll just like let me sit inside. And like, it was fun for me. It's like Lamborghinis. And I mean, he got a whole building, just filled it with cars, like exotic cars. So I've never seen those cars before, and I've never been to one. So that was a fun way for me, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, he did spend a lot of money, but you know, it is what it is. I had great experience from it. And then, so when that chapter closed, I was like, oh man, what am I going to do next? It was like the best job ever. I remember shooting for a magazine and I got a call from my agent and my agent's like, hey, there's this, World Poker Tour audition. I was like, what am I supposed to do? So World Poker Tour, if you guys don't know, is a poker show, and it was I think an ESPN History Channel. It's been in different like major cable channel, right? And I used to watch it when I was younger, just because it was back in the day. Poker was so big, and everybody's like just
In the
want to
Philippines or here?
no here.
Okay.
So like my friends were playing home games and online and I wanted to be a cool kid like them. Right? So it's like everybody's playing. So I learned how to play poker and it was fun. But then I would watch it on TV. So I'm familiar with all these poker players. And then when my agent said, hey, there's an audition to be a brand ambassador, help host the show, would you like to come and do it? And I was like, yeah. And then I saw, you get the sheet for like
Yeah.
what they're looking for as a model, right? And the first thing I saw was like, man, you're Eurasian. So they're required for you to be like exotic looking, basically like half Asian, half European, right? So like different look. I told my agent, I'm kind of like all Asian at this point. I was like, there's really no European, I mean, I have like some Spanish, but it's not like
Strong.
very
Yeah.
strong. You can't tell I'm Spanish. So my agent's like, oh, who cares? We'll just like, try. You never
Yeah, they
know.
do that sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, go. If they deny you, then at least you tried.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, yeah, I got nothing to lose, so why not? I went to the audition and it was like a cattle call. And for people that don't know what that is, it's just basically hundreds of people going on audition. Usually you have like time slots, right? Like, oh, from here to here, you get to the audition. Now, this is just like every single LA pretty girls were there just like auditioning. And I looked at the competitions basically and I was like, oh Lord, there is no way. It's like just too many people and too many pretty girls. Like, I don't know about this. And I think they're only picking like 4 to 6 girls. And they did a nationwide search. So I was like, oh well, might as well try. So I did. I remember wearing this fitted blue dress because I heard blue is like really good on camera. So I did my research. So I went, and then I remember my agent actually was there because she was doing the whole interview. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So I did that, and she was like, "Hey, we're gonna do this application form. It's like a 6-page application form." And I filled it out. It's like a real job, and then we're gonna do an interview in front of the cameras. We'll ask you a few questions, yada yada, the usual, and then that was it.
All right, guys. So we had a little interruption. One of my cameras overheated, and the other one just stopped recording. We got to invest into some better cameras for you guys that are listening on YouTube. So I appreciate you bearing with us. We decided to make some coffee, which is why there's magically 2 cups on the table at this point. All righty. So let's get this party started. So last question I asked you was, when you transitioned to working at WPT, you mentioned you went to the casting and you're wearing a blue dress, and that's where everything went to chaotic.
Am I telling too much? I just want to share the journey with the audience.
Go for it.
they asked me a question. So the final question for this was very interesting, actually. They said, "Do you think you're sexy?" I was like, "Oh no, nobody ever asked me that before." I was like, I'm just gonna be witty or something. So I didn't take this seriously. I didn't think I was gonna get the job. So I said, "No, I don't think I'm sexy. I think I'm hot." And they're like, "What?" I don't even know if that made sense. I was like, "Well, to me, definition of you can be sexy, but like not attractive, right? There's people, a lot of people actually. I don't think they realize they have like the best body or whatever, but just doesn't hit right, right? Like there's no it factor they call or X factor." So I said, "I'm hot." Like basically, if you see me, I might not have the best body or anything, but there's that appeal, right? You're like, "Oh man, there's something about that chick, that girl or that woman that's like just." I refer it to hot. Like, like outfit could be hot, anything could be hot, meaning to me is like just better than being a sexy person.
Yeah.
Like there's an appeal to it. So yeah, that's what I said. I was like, "I'm better than sexy. I'm hot." Like if you see me, you'll say I'm hot. So my agent was laughing behind the camera. It was just she was the one doing the interview. She was just laughing, and she was like, "Okay, well that's it then." I was like, "Yep." So I didn't think that was gonna get me far from the interview or like to the next level or next step. But 2 weeks later, I got a call again in the middle of a photo shoot, and they said that I get no, this wasn't 2 weeks. I'm sorry. This was 2 months later. So I totally forgot about it. And then I got a call from Adam Pliska's assistant, who is the president of World Poker Tour.
Who was also like your father figure at our wedding.
And that's
He's an important man.
That's 12 plus years fast forward later.
Yeah.
He is. And I'll tell you guys about that in a bit. But his assistant Raul was asking what time I can.
Oh, Raul, your friend?
No, that's a different Raul.
Oh, okay. I was like, I didn't know he was the assistant to Adam.
Yeah, no, there was this great assistant guy named Raul, and he asked, if I could come for the in-person interview, which is in Irvine, the corporate, which is not very far. It's a couple hours drive from me, right? So I was like, yeah, absolutely. I was just really excited, and they said they're bringing girls from all over to do this interview, and I go, absolutely. So I asked what the first interview time was, and he said, "Well, it's on Monday at 9 a.m." And I was like, "Well, great. I'll be the first one. I want to be the first girl to be interviewed." And he said, "Okay, we'll see you Monday." So Monday came. I was super excited. I was 1 hour early from my appointment. I was sitting there in a parking lot at 8 o'clock. I started seeing people come in.
So, I think it's the first time I've ever heard you be on time.
Hey, now. I wanted to send you this thing. It says, "Do you want me to show up in a good mood or do you want me to be on time?" So that's only for you. But when it comes to a job, I'm early all the time, actually. That's how professional I am. I came up there and they're like, the interview's not till 9. And I was like, I know, but also it's very traffic and it took me 2 hours to get here. So I didn't want to be late. So I'm fine. I'll wait. So I waited at the lobby and came time to interview. And I met, for the first time, Adam and another of our executive back then. He was actually the president. And I was very nervous, but they made me feel so comfortable because they were just so nice. And they asked me all types of questions and a lot to do with like, you get along with girls. And I was like, I don't know why this question's being brought up. It's weird. But I was like, yes, of course. I was like, I love people. I have a lot of girlfriends. And they're like, do you drink? I was like, what? And I don't drink. So
allergic to alcohol.
I'm allergic to alcohol. I'm allergic to all things that's not good for you. So one of them is alcohol. I'm allergic to cigarette too. So I never really smoke. They said, great. Can you stand up and do a little turn for us? And I was like, this is weird. I was like, okay. So I did. And I think I said something like, "Oh, did you guys just want to look at my ass or what?" And I was just very like me, like I didn't pretend to be someone else. I figured there's a lot of girls, so if it's anything that I learned from modeling, its personality will stand out more, because clearly there's going to be a lot more girls prettier and better in my mind than I am. So I'm like, let me just be myself, and what got me far from modeling is my personality, so I'll just bring it all there. um I also had a strategy coming in. I thought I would dress in white, which is super simple, like hardly any makeup on, like super natural, my hair just long and straight like this. And the thinking behind it, I don't know if you did this with your audition, but I'm very
I
strategic.
didn't do any makeup on it before.
Like
That
you
was
did
once I got the job, but
you didn't do any psychological strategy?
no, I just showed up as me. Same thing. Uh, yeah, like
Was
to me it's different, right? Like
Yeah,
I can't talk. I have to look like stoic and walk straight,
that's true.
and just not have a lumpy body. So basically, no
It's
muscle.
very
So it's
aesthetic
different.
for you, right?
Yeah,
There's no personality. Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
They
Yeah.
didn't want me to smile because my teeth were crooked, but they didn't want me to smile at all. So it's just like straight. That's it.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite for me because I'm commercial, so it's a lot of smiling. But okay, so you'll never get this then. For other people.
I was too tall for commercial.
Girls, this is a good advice. You have to plan for battle if you're doing this. And you know that there's a lot of competitions. You think of like, hey, how can I stand up from the rest, right? Like, forget being the most beautiful. Like, there's going to be a lot of beautiful women. I'm going to go the opposite. I'll be this most simple, most like underestimated, like just like very relatable,
Innocent looking.
innocent.
Yeah.
Like, I'd just be, I know my competitions will be like showing up with full makeup and hair done and, really pretty dresses and whatnot. So I tried to be the opposite. I'm like, I'm going to be as simple as possible. And I said, being the first one, also, it's either I'm going to be so memorable that they'll remember me,
Yeah.
being the first, or I'll be the opposite of that spectrum, which is unforgettable. And 49 other girls that interviewed will probably like just
Yeah, it's
drown me.
worse to be the last because they're just so tired at the end of the day. They're like, yeah, cool. All right, you look skinny. Go. Yeah, you don't want to be the last person.
Well, also that interview was like lasted for 2 weeks or so because they interviewed 50 girls. So they told me that this is after that they actually had over 1,000 girls that auditioned for this job, and they're only choosing like four originally. And they brought back 50 girls in Irvine. They flew them from all over the nation, right, to actually do interview in person. So I was just like, okay, well, here goes.
Yeah, it's like you're
So
flying them in. I had to drive here. What is this?
yeah, exactly. What? Did he get a hotel? So 2 weeks later, maybe, or plus, I didn't hear anything. So I was like, I didn't get it, right? Like usually you hear back within that week. Um, Adam Pliska made a call and said, welcome to the family. Like, you made it. And I was just so excited. I think that was one of the happiest moment of my life because I never imagined I could be on TV and like doing this. Again, coming from a small town in the Philippines where we're not rich, and like modeling is far fetched from like what I know. I just see them on TV and I never thought that I could be one someday. And I was like, oh man, this is happening. All right. So they said I'm one of the four at that time, and then they changed it to six. And I'll meet the rest of the girls later where I'll have like a group photo shoot. And I think like you met Angelique, you right, the girl that we met in New York. So she was the first one
Yeah,
I worked with. Angelique is just this beautiful girl from New York who's like super smart, and she's the first one I work with.
yeah. I just gotta say for the people listening, we were literally walking in like almost middle of Times Square, going to a comedy show, and I'm talking to Ivy, and she walks besides this girl Angelique.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just walks beside it, and then just they didn't talk to each other because I was talking to Ivy, but they kind of like both turn around and look at each other and recognize each other amongst this sea of people
Yeah, what are
in
the
Times Square.
chances,
Yeah, it's
right?
crazy.
So, and this is, I have not seen this girl in years or
Yeah.
even spoken to her because she moved to Costa Rica. No, Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic. Yeah.
So, but she's very successful now, and like I love her. And it's just that energy that you feel from people, right? So, back to where we first started working together, I remember in Florida. And then they started showing us who the rest of the girls are. And comes Danielle, was like gorgeous. Girl was like now my best friend. And I was like, what?
Who's
Like,
also at our wedding.
and then Brittany, who's also an amazing like Miss USA pageant girl, right? So like these girls are just like the prettiest that I've ever seen. And I was like, oh man, I feel so honored to be picked as one of the ambassadors for the World Poker Tour and to host, because the caliber of the girls they actually hired are just like I've never imagined before, right? So I was like, they must be like bitches and like, like catty because these girls are just like the prettiest and like pageant girls. And then I came to meet them and they're actually quite the opposite. So they hired girls who are also personable and very relatable and down to earth, and despite, well, not despite, in spite of their beauty and what they've accomplished, they're actually really good girls and really nice people to know. So I was happy about that.
And how long have you been with the tour now?
um Still am. 13 years later, which is a season because it's a TV show, right?
Yeah.
So I started season 10, 9, end of season 9, and we're in 22 now. So yeah, been a long time.
Yeah. I saw Ivy at the gym when we moved to Squamish. They had those TVs.
Yeah.
The TVs on the wall, and we saw you up there while we were working out.
So random, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I started doing, commercials, TV shows for them, hosting, help with the lifestyle, like branding. And World Poker Tour is a family basically to me. Like I've spent more time with them than I spent with my family because holiday comes, we're together, we're filming around the world. Been to 40 countries now because of that job, and I'm very grateful. Adam Pliska, who's the president, is also like my second father who, was in our wedding. In that photo.
Yeah,
You
it's not
guys
in the
can
frame,
see it.
but it's right behind Ivy above her head.
So we see him every day in our home. My best friend, Danielle Ruiz, who's also still in, the tour with me. I mean, I met great people and became real family after. So grateful for that. And what else? That's pretty much it. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, you're still touring. Where's the last few trips you went? You went to UK.
I went to
Liechtenstein.
I went to France.
Like this in the past year, basically.
Yeah. So where else did I go? Oh, back to Montreal.
Yeah, you went to Montreal. You had lunch with my parents. I can't go back to Canada, so.
Yeah, so very blessed. Still be able to do this, and like it's. I believe like if you just push for what you want, and also be nice to people, takes you a long, long way. Beauty is not forever. I'm getting old. I see wrinkles here and there, and
I love that the people listening are going to look at you and be like, Ivy's not old. She's 25 forever. We'll put it this way. If you guys add up all the timelines of she came here when she was 15, she's been in the tour for 13 years.
In
Ivy's
college.
20.
Yeah.
Ivy's 25.
Still 25, forever. Yes. But yeah, no, like.
One day you'll reveal your age.
I will.
One day.
Once my skincare brand comes out. Early plug.
We'll put it out there. So Ivy's going to come out with her own skincare. And once she reveals her age, everyone will want to buy the skincare.
And it's the truth.
Yeah. Whatever you think it is, it's more. So, skincare coming. Vegan line skincare. So, how did you go from...
Are we talking about vegan?
No, from poker to your last corporate job before we met, and we kind of started working together for this because you worked in the skincare industry. right? So how did that kind of come about?
Okay, so I've always worked corporate since I was younger because my stepfather owned a software company. So that's where I started learning, the skills and everything that's, involved in terms of corporate work.
Yeah. Can I just throw something in there? I wish I would have been able to meet your stepfather because he sounds like a freaking badass. You want to kind of just tell the people all the shit he did?
Yeah, so my stepfather built this company from his garage, right? So he has an engineering degree in software and created a system that would do document scanning. So back in the day, there's no home scanners. This is new, like Microsoft's still a thing, Apple's just starting. So my dad figured, hey, if we do a document scanning software that would actually build and house all this, you know, information in a database where you can actually search by like keywords, like that's what I want to build. Imagine this back in the day. This is like unheard of.
Yeah.
So my dad built, I call him my dad. I've known him as my dad. So um, he built this system from the ground up, right? So from his garage, kind of probably what you started doing.
Second bedroom. I wasn't rich enough to have a garage yet.
And he had an assistant basically. So just the both of them built this company. So fast forward to where he built it and it had like 150 people under him, and it's a multi-million. A lot of the entertainment industry, we're talking about like Sony Studio, Universal Studios, and all that company, like huge Kaiser Permanente were our clients. So we're doing document imaging for them. So it became successful. So basically, that's the kind of person he is. Like
Yeah.
he.
But also like the hiking in Grand Canyon in the middle of the
Oh
summer, the
my god,
skydiving.
he's intense. I don't. Growing up, I didn't know that you could die from hiking in 100+ triple digit Fahrenheit in the middle of canyons like Zion Park and Arizona, um, the Grand Canyon. And my dad loves the heat, like dry heat.
Yeah. And for the
So,
Canadian listening, that's like 40, 45 plus degrees Celsius. That's a lot.
right. So he would take me and my mom and go, let's go hiking. He loves family
It's a
thing.
nice little walk
All right.
across the
So
whole
take the
Grand Canyon.
RV to Arizona and then park there and then we're going to go to Grand Canyon now and go backpacking and put this pack. It's like 25 pounds. And remember, I was skinny. So I was like less
That
than
was half your
100
body
pounds.
weight. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, great. No training, by the way. Just like go for it. We did in the middle of this 100. I don't even remember. It felt like an oven the whole time. And I remember there was like this little shower, like water fountain for people to like just get wet.
Yeah.
And during the hike down, and like maybe 5 steps later, you're dry. That's how
Yeah.
hot it was. And my dad didn't believe in bringing water with them or anything. Like, you can get it once we get back. So
That's how I run.
yeah. See, you have a lot of similarities. They say marry your father. I basically did.
Yeah.
Um, well, like, so yeah, he loves hiking in extreme heat. We did that as a family. He loved scuba diving, skydiving, whatever he did. He was lacking in like natural athleticism. He made up for like
And hard
just
work.
determination. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he pushed and he pushed. So everything he wanted to be, he's also a pilot. He used to pilot his own little, charter plane. He made sure that he became the best version of him, which
Yeah.
was a really great role model growing up, right? So I got into martial arts because of him. We did it as a family. I got my black belt right in Taekwondo. We did Kung Fu. We did stick fighting. Then
Yeah.
later on, I did Jiu-Jitsu. So that mentality of like just going for it and be the best that you can came from him, which
Yeah.
is, I believe you have a lot of those also
Yeah.
characteristics
Yeah,
and
I could.
attributes.
Yeah, we'll get there. I have a lot of natural athleticism. I'm pretty blessed in that way, but I do have to like the back end part of it. I'll get good real quick, but then I get stuck at like average, and I need to like work
Yeah.
hard to get to
Well, my dad was a genius. He read like books, and we had a full library. When I said he read books, he read
every
one
day.
book every day.
Yeah, yeah.
And he
We need
can
to clarify. Like he was so smart, he read books.
yeah, I mean, and we're talking about not the easy reading type. They're like thick and small, like letters. So he was like, we would go camping, and he was just reading books after books after books, and that's his passion. He loved learning, and I mean, anything he can get his hands on learning and being better, he did.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like a cool man. I wish I would have met him.
Yeah, you would have loved him.
Yeah. So let's talk about that transition. I just want to talk about your dad for a bit. Let's talk that transition to you working corporate for the.
Oh yeah, this was after COVID, right? So during the height of COVID, we couldn't tour. So World Poker Tour is out as far as like doing the job. So I'm like, man, what do I do now? Everything's shut down. Well, one company that didn't shut down, or the industry, was like skincare, because they were creating alcohol sanitizers, so they're
Yeah.
allowed to open, right? Um, so I got interviewed for a sales job. And I thought it'd be great to work for a skincare manufacturing company. And also, a lot of that came from I needed a job. Like, it's just something that I wanted to do in terms of like, I didn't want to stay home during COVID. This was 2020.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember, I think it was like my birthday. And then I got an interview right before that. It was, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm going in. There's this lady, and she's the president of the company, and she's very stoic. Like, I didn't know if she liked me or not. She just didn't give me the vibes of like some, most of the time people, you can tell if they like you on a job interview. She just didn't show anything. So I was like, man, I don't know if I got this job, but I hope I did. So they gave me a call, got an offer, and I was like, great, now I have a job. And this is in Thousand Oaks, so it's not far from my house. I have no idea what the whole skincare industry is about. I have nursing degree, right? So I do know I love chemistry and things like that. That's like one of my favorite subject learning. And am I being too detailed?
Nah, it's perfect. So yeah, you got the job there, and you started off in a sales
Sales.
position.
Yes. So she told me, hey, you need to learn the everything from the basic to like, because you need to sell the product, and the
Yeah.
best way to sell your product is to know your brand, right, and your product, and in depth. So I studied, and nobody was really teaching me, because this was like a new company taking over, so she just took it over, so everything's new to her too. So we're both learning the industry together. And I had asked one of the operations manager to teach me, like, how are you doing sales and this and that. But he was very reluctant. Like, he didn't really want to teach, because I think at that point they were scared to lose their jobs,
Yeah.
because there might be a turnover, right, with the new management. So I was just like trying to learn it on my own, did my own research, asked around. I went to the actual manufacturing company where we actually do the factory manufacturing, right? The operations. And I ask people from there what they're doing, how they're doing it. So just basically learning as much as I can. And then I was given this book to actually pitch for clients. And I was taking meetings from big brands that, I won't name names, but I think I signed an NDA, but it's
big brands. Yeah, yeah. The stuff that's probably in your house.
Yeah, that you see like, in Target and Nordstrom's and things
Whole
like that.
Foods.
Yeah, Whole Foods. And I was pitching products and how we do things, and for them to actually interact with me and like give me a chance to like create their brands and their new product line, I quickly realized that I have the neck and talent to do so. I convince people very much to like come to our manufacturing company, and we can do a great job for them. So also with that, I quickly learn ingredients and what's not good and what's good for your skin and, chemicals and all that, that in everyday, like, usage that we're not aware of. We're just like, just because it's there, right? I'm sure you've done it. Like, you don't really read like all these labels and what they are. You don't know how to read ingredients from like the top to the bottom. And even if you do read them, you have no idea what they are unless you actually look them up, right? So all those I learned and quickly because I have to pitch to brands like we're clean and we're like green and we like plant-based stuff, and there was a huge spike in plant-based ingredients and making it more organic and all that good stuff, so I had to learn quickly, which I'm very grateful because that's where it peaked, where my interest is like, now I want to create my own brand because I know I can put the best ingredients in and actually work.
Yeah,
and I love that job.
and I think I think you got your promotion to vice president while we were together. So we met before that happened.
Oh yeah, so the promotion came really fast. From sales, I became sales director. From sales director, I became another one.
Operation manager.
Yeah, operations manager. I got promoted 3 times. Vice president, right?
Yeah, vice president was the last one.
Yeah, and then I became vice president. And people are like, of what? I'm like, the whole company. Like, they just don't believe that I move up.
Multi-million-dollar company. It was a pretty big company.
Yeah, I mean, like, I learned fast and I learned, like, I love what I did. It's the first time, and actually I told you when we met, it was like my dream job.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I get to create. My creative side is there. People are listening. I'm good at it. Like a lot of these beauty consultants and product consultants would actually consult with me. So I was taken seriously. I found something I'm good at. I love the people I work with. I led the team and, like, multiply the business basically. So that's why I got the job, right? And the promotions. And later on found out that I was going to take over the position of the president because she's going to retire. And basically she was molding me to be the next person in line for her, which I was grateful. And then came you.
Throw in the disruption. So yeah, how did, you want to tell your side of the story of like how we met?
Yes. So at this
because
point,
my side's better, but
at this point, I had it's not a secret. If you guys followed me on social media, failed relationships, been
it's all over Google. So when you're a celebrity, like you can, people document all this stuff online.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I just had another failed relationship, which I was engaged to, right? And at that point, I think I kind of gave up in love, and I just like focused everything in my career. I think a lot of people do that too, right? Like, if I can't get love, then at least I can get rich and successful. So that's
Gave
what I
up
did.
on love at 25. Unbelievable.
I was like, then we met on social media. You messaged me. I don't think you messaged
Yes.
me. Okay, so make story short, I don't know. We already talked about this in our relationship and how we met, so I'm sure they're familiar. But
I slid in her DM and she was like, "This is the most beautiful man I've ever seen."
Exactly how it happened.
A Canadian, I need to take him off the market.
I can't find any in LA, so I had to venture out. I did meet you in person, and we had this late lunch, early dinner, and we click, and I usually click with people, but not in the level we did where you made me cry the first time. I've given up in crying also. I never really cried.
Not because I was mean to people, all right? We went deep conversation.
Yeah, our very first meeting, we got really deep. We talked about goals and, legacies and
aspirations, things we want to
do.
like
deeper than a first date normally.
Yeah. Well, because it wasn't a first date, right? Like it was just us.
Oh yeah, we weren't dating.
It was just us meeting, and I'm new to LA. We're just meeting someone cool, so there was no like intention of like you wanting to be with me or me wanting to be with you.
Right,
So we
because
just didn't care. We just
that's
talked about
true. You
everything.
said you just wanted to meet more people in LA since you're vacationing, and I just wanted to meet you because I was bored. So,
Yeah.
and like, I've given up in love, so it didn't really matter how it turned out. But I thought you were such a nice person, judging from, and that was the only impression I got from your social media with all your podcasts and the way you spoke. You were professional and genuine, and just like just you can tell you're a good person. So, and you were, and you still are. So you didn't
Thank you
change.
for clarifying.
And I married
It's
you.
changed in the past
Clearly,
3 years.
we got married. So but yeah, so back to the skincare company. I have all this opportunity. You're like the Matrix, which hole do you want to go?
Well, the reason why you were kind of forced to make a decision for the people listening is you could have continued down this path, right? And I wanted you to kind of do all of these things, but because I was just a Canadian citizen visiting in the United States, I had only 6 months, and I had once we met and we kind of clicked, I was like, let me just try to stay here. So I applied for. It was because your head goes in front of the camera, so
Oh,
we'll
sorry.
just wait for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I applied for a visa to open. The fastest way I found is to open an extension of my business in the United States as another corporation, and so I was pending.
Yeah.
And so yeah, visa didn't work out. Lawyers we hired were terrible, and so yeah, I was basically forced with a decision to. Well, I didn't force a decision. I had to leave the United States, or I'd be banned for 3 years because I would have overstayed. I think it was like five. I think 5 days. Like, is the first
One
day.
week. Yeah.
I was less than that because the first day I went to the garage, I got the car fixed. The second day I got a hitch installed in the car. The third day I grabbed a trailer and we packed everything and we drove for 2 days straight. But basically, I had to leave the country, and Ivy and I had to make a decision of whether we wanted to do a long distance or if she was going to come with me because I couldn't stay. And so that's when I proposed to you. And I was like, hey, like, I'm serious about us. Like, you know, but yeah, so
On our
then
driveway.
at your mom's driveway after the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went, man. I bought a few different rings, and I was like, "Ta-da! Which one do you want?"
It's very unconventional. Yes. Best proposal ever.
Yeah, and I filmed it too. As I brought you to your mom, I was like, I just need to do something at your mom because I want her mom to be involved. And
Yeah.
I asked for her blessing first. And yeah, we went to your mom. I was like, go help your mom inside the house. Go do something. So I set up my tripod and my phone.
Yeah, it's like I'm out. There's a tripod. I was like, okay, so this is
Something's
happening.
happening.
Yeah.
Did you know I was going to propose?
And
Specifically, it was going to be
no,
like
not
something
until
else.
I saw the tripod.
Oh, the tripod is what gave away that I was going to
Yeah,
propose to you.
because I was like, he wants to record something and is acting weird. So, yeah.
Yeah. So for that, so basically, you have to make a decision of like continuing this job, or yeah, trying to do it online, which I think was the first path we chose.
Yeah, and this is the thing because the president who became like my mentor and everything warned me already in the beginning about you. Like, nope, not that one.
Say no to guys.
And I think she saw the future. She's probably, yeah, she's like smart. She knows. Um, she saw that we're probably going to be together and you're going to take me away. So her thing is like, do this with me. We're going to be in it together. Forget guys. Um,
Be single, old, and rich.
yeah, it's like, just get rich. If you're rich, you can get whatever you want and do whatever you want, like, trust me. And I get that. She's a bit jaded about life because of her, things turned out for her. She was also a very beautiful woman when her younger years. She was a Playboy model,
Yeah.
centerfold. So, and then got into business, very smart. So I get it. Like, I'm not holding anything against her. She's a great mentor to me. I do have a choice to make at that point because she's like, I don't know how I feel about this. You leaving, and when I'm leading a whole team of like chemists at that time, and products and things like that. So I promised to come back every week.
Not every month. You're gonna fly in every month.
I thought it was every week on
No,
my
because
dime.
you didn't take a flight every month because
Well,
we're from Squamish, right? So I had to drive to the airport.
oh yeah, I think
It
in the
was a
beginning I said I was going to come back. I'll try to do it every maybe 2 weeks. It was more than a month because I knew I had to like test products and things like that with the chemist. So I was just like, I'll be here, on my dime. Like, I'm gonna make it work. And she said, yeah. And then we came. I mean, I gave her like less than a week's notice, clearly.
5 days.
Because we had to leave. Um, but I kind of knew that if I didn't come along to this trip with you, that we probably wouldn't end up being together. And that's just,
I'm not a long distance person, and you aren't
yeah.
either.
Yeah. So I didn't want to give it up. It took me so long to find the right love that I'm seeking, and I feel strongly about you, and I wanted it to work. So I said to myself, I can always find another job, right? Or I can always take care of my career later because it's always going to be there. Or it's easier to come by versus someone that you click with and, find a real good partner in life and align with everything that you stood for. So I chose you over and
And,
over.
and here we are, married almost 3 years later.
And lost my job clearly because
Yeah, a
of
very
that.
well, over 6 figure, well paying job. Said no to money to be with my broke ass in Canada. I wasn't
No,
broke, but
you weren't broke,
no.
but I
I
got
was
I
LA
was
broke.
broke after,
I was
but
LA broke. Yeah.
yeah. So I gave up the dream career I thought I had, gave up the money, gave up a lot, but at the end of the day, it's well worth it because it's not every day that you find a partner in life, right? Everything is temporary
Yeah.
in life, but finding the person you want to be with. And this is probably cheesy, but we live a cheesy life. What can you say?
Yeah, I got some comments to say about that.
um, Maxim and I are just like very, I feel like we're the same person, but we're not. Um, we get each other, not in the beginning, but probably my jokes were too harsh for you. But my sarcasm that I thought was funny was not very funny to him.
No.
But we learned.
Hey, to be fair, you were hard to be with at the beginning.
No
If
way.
running away, yeah, there was a lot.
Oh, yeah, no, I did everything I could to push her away because it was a test.
No, it wasn't a test. You were scared. That's what it was. And
Yeah, we'll get into that
I stood my
later.
ground.
But whatever, it was counting. Yeah, so I lost the job. They let me go,
Yeah,
and it
and that
was,
company went under too, right?
yeah, after they sold the company.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm just grateful for the experience, and from that, I found out that's my passion, creating skincare, and like, just it's what I want to do. So,
Yeah. In the meantime, she's working with me at Fit Vegan until she gets her skincare off the ground and get everything going.
yeah, and I want to be aligned, like cruelty free, animal tested, things like that, as vegans would do, and plant based and everything good for you. So if I'm using it, I want people to use it. If it works for me, I want it to work for others. So yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I just need that capital.
Well, it's coming. It's coming in soon, and no, I'm excited for you to start your skincare.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I feel like we said, everything happens for a reason. There were so many things that would have made it that we wouldn't have met that day, and then if we didn't meet that day, you would have continued on with your life. I would have been probably in Costa Rica like a month after that first conversation that we had, and we would have been down two different paths. Like, a lot had to happen perfectly for us to meet that day.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, I didn't realize, like, being in a relationship, that I was lacking a lot of like contribution to. I think my past relationships, just to be fair to them, I probably could have done more, but I didn't. And I was still in that mentality of like protecting myself and not get hurt, right? But with you, we learned together how to actually like navigate relationship and make a lasting marriage. Um, you never fail to learn anything that makes us better. That's one thing I love about you because you're always, whether in every aspect of your life, career, business, people, our relationship, you're always like that strive to be better and know how to be better is like a never ending thing to you. It's like every day, how can I improve myself? In which I looked into you and it's a reflection of like, okay, I'm your partner. So if you're trying to be better, I don't want to be left behind. So I'm also trying to be better to be in the same level as yours. So, you pick a partner, like I heard from Instagram.
I thought you were going to say Tony.
I know, or Tony Robbins. No, it's like you find a partner that will lift you up, right? It's either could bring you up or bring you down. So I feel like you and I found that with each other. So it's, not to be cheesy again, like you are the perfect partner for me because my strength is probably some of your weaknesses and your strength are some of my weaknesses. Together, we learn from each other and make that stronger together and build our empire.
I was going to make a joke. I have no weaknesses. What are you talking about?
Oh, that's next episode.
Next episode, my weaknesses? Yeah. Hey, being overly driven sometimes can be a negative. But no,
I like that you do that in like a really positive way, which
of course.
Oh my god, I like care so much. That's a weakness.
I care. I love her so much.
Oh yeah. And what else? What else do you want to know? That's pretty much. No, we didn't talk about how you
am amazing.
I'm amazing. You are amazing. No, eating properly and exercising.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, we can just keep that whole clip in. So when we first met, we've shared this in previous podcasts. You were like, "Do you care if I eat salmon?" On like our first date when we first met. And I was like, I don't care, because I was like, I'm just not gonna eat it. You can eat whatever you want.
I love fish.
And yeah, you told me like, hey, I'm a big foodie. I go to like these, these high-end restaurants. Like I enjoy food as an experience. And now you've been vegan for a year. So what happened there?
Oh, yeah. So not to be bougie, but
too late.
I had this idea of like creating a show and traveling the world and eating at all Michelin star restaurants, right? Which I started doing as I traveled. But as we know, Michelin star is not always the cheapest. It's pretty expensive. And if you can find one that's less expensive, that's like very rare. But just like, I was like, how great is it to be followed by audiences that loves food and enjoy the experience, right? There's something to say about that. But also I wasn't aware about like the cruelty and the animals being, like slaughtered. Like, I think a lot of people just block that. So
Yeah.
to be able to enjoy what's in front of you, right?
Or some people they don't even consciously block it. They're just like, the connection was never made.
Right.
Them. Yeah.
So for me, it's lack of awareness. I just never knew coming from the Philippines, we ate all types of meat, right? And like that was the thing. So growing up here, it's another thing, like a filet, a wagyu, or whatever, like this really good meat. And this whole experience, and it's not always about the meat, right? There's like, I remember being in Denmark and one of the best restaurants, and they did farm to table, but it's just experience. Anyways, I made friends with a lot of these Michelin star chefs because I love food so much. I geek out on chefs that's like I see on TV or wrote books or like known in the world versus celebrity. Like I could meet an A-list celebrity and not feel anything. I meet chefs renowned in the world, I like die. I'm just like, oh my god. So that's how big of a foodie. So that's like and to like give you guys a background of how big food experience is for me. So when I met Maxim and he told me he's vegan, I was like, that's fine. I got a lot of vegan friends. Didn't realize that, how
that changes the choice of restaurants you're going to go to if we stay together.
The first day was not what I envisioned it to be like in the future because I didn't think we were going to be together. So I was like, I don't care. You're vegan. That's good, But also, like, he let me eat my salmon while we were eating because some vegans get offended
Yeah, he's
when
like, "Are you that kind of vegan?" I
yeah.
was like, "I don't care.
I
I just won't eat it."
mean, I respect that, but at the same time, I'm like, if I'm gonna be who I am in front of you, I'll eat whatever I want, not pretend. So sushi was a big thing coming from Los Angeles and California, right? That's like we love sushi. So that's one thing I can give up, I think. Like I didn't really eat meat. Like we've talked about this multiple times. I'm not really a meat eater. I don't really consume it like that. I get stomach ache, but I do love fish. So then we started dating. We started living together, and you made me like cook my own fish in a different pan. That was fine. And then I'm not really in the business yet, right? Like I wasn't really in the fit vegan world yet. I was still working for the other company when it first
Yeah,
started.
and we didn't post on social media. We were together for like almost like for like 6 months or something.
Oh yeah, so that as well. And there's multiple reasons behind that, right? Um, but yeah, like a year and a half later, we're together. I think we moved to Squamish. That's when I started eating more.
Vegan, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what do you think was the tipping point that you're like, might as well just like,
Awareness is one. Like I'm a big animal lover. So I know like a lot of people are vegan for health, right? Reasons, and then animals then not really the health reason. You showed me the health part of it, which is impressive.
yeah, because that was my reason, yeah.
Right. And that was not good enough reason for me because I never had a problem, right? Like with weight or like how I look. And so, I mean, I don't know how many people can relate to me, but that was not a thing. Like I didn't care much for that. And I felt healthy like the whole time, right? So for me, the animals was like a turning point. Like you started showing me documentaries about, you know, veganism and lifestyle and what it can do for you and the environment. And then I started watching all these animals. And then all of a sudden, you made me super sensitive to like I was not this sensitive in the beginning of our relationship. I like
Well, you had a really big wall that was up,
right.
and so yeah, I just chipped at it over time,
Yeah, you're
and
good at that.
eventually I got access to your heart, and then you became sensitive.
I'm very sensitive now, like, seeing animals suffer and like, what it's doing to the environment to the point where I work with PETA for a voiceover for their little, animal cruelty campaign. And then work with World Wildlife Fund. Why is it tongue twisting? World Wildlife Fund. WWF for the environment and animals to protect as well. So yeah, it's crazy how I turned from like didn't care just enjoying my food to whatever they present in front of me to now like conscious of like what it is that I put in my body and what it's doing to the environment and animals. So, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's all kudos to you, right?
Well, I think it's been cool to see your evolution in it because I feel like being in like culturally, you grew up in a culture that like is very meat heavy in the
Oh yeah, I'm
Philippines,
still the only vegan in my family.
right? And then you come to LA, which is very status driven, like those high end restaurant, being able to afford to kind of eat these types of meals. And then I think you had your walls up when it came to like relationship in your heart. And then I just like kept showing up over and over and over again for you, even though you didn't want me to sometime.
Yeah.
And eventually it just softened you and you were like, okay, I can trust him. And then you open your heart. And then when you open your heart, then you kind of also open your heart to other things in your life. And then once you kind of get exposed to animal cruelty and you start, there's a thing about like a lot of vegans talk about that when they transition. You just become more compassionate once you start eating plant based
Yeah.
because then you kind of understand like all the impact that it has. And I think there's from a spiritual standpoint, like meat is dead energy. So not putting dead energy into your body and putting food that is alive, I think that changes how you feel as well. And then it kind of opens you up more. And then it's hard to go back.
Yeah, it's like a chain reaction. Once you learn about the food, you learn about the health aspect, you learn about the environment, and you learn, no, actually, environment less because you learn about the animals and how it's done, right? Farming and all that. Then you learn about the environment. Then you learn about the whole world suffering, and we're chipping away this great mother nature, and everything that's like happening is affecting, the future of the generation that we have. So yeah, it's just like conscious decision and awareness of like where you want to be and how you want to contribute in the world, and what's your legacy towards that, right? And to me, I just want to leave footprints that will make this world better. And if it takes one person at a time, so be it, versus none.
Yeah.
So little baby steps. What is it like? Consistency compounds, right?
Yeah.
So little things you do end up being big at the end, and it'll make an impact.
Let's wrap it up with fitness talk.
Oh,
So
okay.
you were always into fitness?
I was always into fitness, martial arts my whole life, competitive.
So Ivy can kick butt.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love being competitive. I love winning.
Yeah. But
Who doesn't?
We did your first race. It was your first race ever together, the Spartan race that we
Oh
did.
yeah, you're gonna show the photo too.
Yeah, it's on the other wall right there.
Right.
But yeah, people have seen it if they watch our stories or our YouTube videos. But yeah, that was your first Spartan race. So how was fitness before we met to
Oh yeah, it changed because the aesthetic of modeling is not, well, I'm not doing fitness modeling. I was doing commercials and, like clothing and
So
catalogs.
just being skinny and lean, basically.
Well, yeah, because on cameras, like the leaner you are, or like skinny, the taller you look too, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have like that bulging muscles. So I have nothing against fitness and like being muscular or tone, but I couldn't develop it for the life of me. I just was built skinny, right? So it was hard for me to even gain muscle. Like I have to work out all the time, which I did. I worked out twice a day. I ate so much food and calories, hired coaches. So I was always into working out. It's like my passion. It made me happy. At 6 a.m., I would do HIIT exercises, group classes, things like that. I would stay 2 hours in the gym. And then I met you. I actually exercise less because you're like, you don't need to stay 2 hours. Like, you just have to do this. And like strength training is new to me, right?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of HIIT, spin, cardio. So the look is like, skinny, and it's great for photos and videos. But when I met you, it's more of like, let's make sure you're eating calories that's meant for you, and protein and this and that, which I hate counting.
Which I think you counted once, to be fair. She's like, hey, I'm going to pay for my fitness paprino. I'm going to track my food. I think it lasted one day.
Yeah, I get it. It's hard.
Yeah. But the strength training made a big difference in your physique, though.
The strength training, yes, because the Spartan race, you didn't prepare me for that. So he's just like my stepfather, and God bless his soul. He's no longer with us, but Maxim is the same way. He's not preparing me for anything because he thinks I'm just prepared, period. So
That's
he's
how
like,
I am.
he's like, we're going to do the Spartan race. And granted, I had no idea there's like all these obstacles. I didn't even Google it. I just like go with it, and I went with it, and there's like what, 30 obstacles?
No, those last for ours. It was
20?
like 15 or 20, yeah. Because it was we did the shorter one to just warm you up to
It
it.
felt like 30. Just to tell you, my first Spartan race. I would say it was really fun, but at the same time, it was really hard, and you didn't prepare me, and I blame you for it because I'm like, oh my God, what's this rope climbing thing? I've never climbed ropes before. Dangle on, like, what's that? The ring, the rope ring?
Yeah, like the monkey bars.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm like, this was not part of my training. I've never seen these things before. But so, to be honest, like, it was really hard. I would say it's fun after because I accomplished and achieved finishing it. But if I were to go back, I would probably prepare more as far as like upper body strength and lifting.
Well, you got biceps
like
now.
Pull-ups.
You have biceps. Show your
And
biceps to the
skinny,
camera.
though. Like,
Look at those biceps.
Can you see?
You guys can see it on audio, but Ivy's got a little nugget there. Yeah, you see that? You see the shoulder? Yeah. There you go. Before, when Ivy would flex her bicep, it would be like a soft little noodle. But now there's actually like a nugget in there. She actually got a bicep.
Yeah, no, I do.
She'll come up to me in the kitchen sometimes and she'll be like, look at my bicep.
Like, feel my biceps. Yeah, no, I mean, now I have biceps and triceps and parts of muscles that's showing, and it's great.
Yeah,
It's a
like a
different.
vein. I filmed you doing an Arnold press. You had like a vein in your shoulder.
It looks good.
Ivy's looking jacked.
Yeah, like, yeah, I've always wanted to be a fitness model. Actually, I
Yeah,
just never knew how to do it right. So
strength training is a big part.
yeah, I know that now, and
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're so much better at squatting, deadlifting, stiff leg deadlift. When I made Ivy do those exercises at first, that shit was wobbly. Like her knees would just like buckle in and out. Her butt would go left and right. And yeah, it was so funny. But now you're
yeah,
very like the thing is the more you do it, you're now very coordinated. You know how to do the motion. You can actually lift pretty heavy weights now.
I look like
Um,
I know what I'm doing.
yeah, well, you know what you're doing because sometimes you'll leg press more than the guys beside you.
Yeah, then I go, yeah.
Yeah, because Ivy and I used to train together. We used to do the same workout. But now it was just too much work for me to like put on all of my weights and remove all of them for her to do her set and then put them back on.
I help, by the way.
Yeah, but it just made our workout so much longer.
Right.
So now we just do our own thing. But she'll come up to me sometimes and she'll be like, "Look, I'm doing more weights than the guy beside me."
Yeah, and I like or do deadlift, and I was like, hey, I can deadlift more than this guy, and they're looking at me because like I'm not trying, I'm just like doing my
Yeah,
thing.
we're skinny, but we're strong though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So we have to run actually because we have to go pick up your mom because we're going to watch the new movie with her with
Ryan
Deadpool
Reynolds.
and Wolverine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So any closing thoughts that you'd like to share for this episode, which is probably our longest episode that I've ever recorded, I think at this point. We get our cameras overheated twice. We need new cameras.
I think I'm being asked all the time, what's the secret to looking the way I look, right? Because people have known me for years and I see them 10 years later and they're like, man, you haven't aged. You look the same. What's the secret? So I'll tell you the secret. It's my skincare. Okay. It's definitely not drinking. I feel like that contributed a lot to like keeping my skin clear and just like, not dry. And then um exercising is great. Like I've done that my whole life. So basically healthy living, I think, is the secret to like feeling and looking young, right? So looking young is one thing, but feeling young and be vibrant is another, which is those two you need to like achieve. You can't just look the look and not like feel it because then it's useless.
Yeah.
So I feel like, just keep living that healthy lifestyle. Like, don't be pressured in any way. I think growing up in the Philippines and all that experiences of like being sure of who I was at an early age, despite of all like the teasing and, yeah, bullying, help a lot to secure the person that I am and to know my identity and move forward with that through different types of like journey in my life. So that's what kept me strong, kept me genuine, kept me down to earth. So just don't get peer pressured, be who you are and believe that, you are enough. I know it's very cliche, but this is really what I.
Well, the reason why it's cliche is because a lot of people say it and it's the truth. All right. That's one thing I've realized. All the things that are cliche is because they're basic, they're simple, and they're true because they work.
Yeah, I was like, don't be so caught up into like what's cool or who's cool because at the end of the day, you only have yourself to impress. Like those people don't give an F about you.
Yeah. And you have to live with yourself all
Right.
the time.
And like you look back and you're like, why was I trying to impress those people that don't even matter now? Right. So live for yourself, love yourself, and do the best that you can to find a partner that's aligned with everything that you believe in. And it's effortless. Like you and I are best friends.
What?
We're together 24/7. We do everything together, which is probably hard for most people because it's not natural to be with your spouse, partner, whatever, like 24/7. You work usually in the day, you come back home to be together, but we're together every day. We work together. We love each other to the point where we enjoy each other's company. And like, there's just not a day that I would rather not be with Maxim. Maybe
except once a month.
Oh yeah, the PMS. He loves that.
Just
Anyways,
once a month, but the rest of the time we're good. So 99% of the time.
yeah. So words of wisdom: just be you and f everyone else that doesn't agree because they don't matter.
Yeah. And Ivy's been really good at kind of helping me with that along the way. Yeah, that's been a big lesson. I've learned a lot from Ivy.
Thank you.
She's
You just be a good person.
yeah, a little bit older than me. She's passed on some wisdom.
So little.
Yeah.
Like,
So funny. I'm very curious to know what age people think you are.
life experience.
Let's play a game. If in the comment section below, if you're watching on YouTube, guess Ivy's age.
Running.
Guess Ivy's age in the YouTube comment section. I'll see what people say.
It'll show reveal during my skincare launch.
Yeah. I'm very curious. My love, thank you very much for jumping on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy we got to do like an interview about you, because a lot of times it's just we're talking about relationship, we're talking about different things. So yeah, and if you guys like episodes with Ivy, let me know and we'll bring her back on the show. I will upgrade our camera gear so it does not overheat. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're listening on podcast audio, be sure to rate the podcast a 5-star, leave a nice review because it helps the channel grow. And ultimately, every time you guys do these things, what it does for us is that it allows us to get bigger guests on the show. Because
like me,
exactly like Ivy, I wouldn't be able to afford a celebrity like this. But just the reality of the day and age that we live in, people want to see big numbers. And if you have big numbers, I'll be like, yeah, I'll come on your show because it's worth my time. And so if you guys really enjoyed this episode and you want me to get bigger guests on, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye, everyone.